Hi again, everyone. So now we want to manage George Smith's household. So George Smith is the client that we just created. When we come back to client point and we search his name, we see that there's other George Smiths there, but the George Smith that we created with this social and this date of birth has officially given George Smith a client ID number. So his client ID number is now 2771. So if I was to clear all of this out, I could just search by his client ID number, 2771, and then I'm automatically in his client profile. So you want to try to get used to remembering your client ID numbers, but it's always important to check to make sure that there's no duplicate George Smiths or whatever your client's name is in the system. And for this, because we already created George Smith into the system for the date that he initially presented, we can just use current system date or exit out. For now, we're just going to click use current system date. I'm going to hide this toolbar on the left-hand side by clicking this little arrow. If you ever need it again, you can just click it again. It just gives you more view of the entire screen. Okay, so now the first thing you want to do before I enter data into any of my projects is to make sure I'm entering data as the right project. So the first thing we did was we entered data as, and we realized that George was entering a family shelter. So we're going to click on the plus next to that. It's going to take you back to your home page, and then to get back to him, you don't have to search for him again. You could click on this last viewed. It's actually a drop down. It'll show you the last 10 clients that you've worked with. So this is a quick shortcut to get back to George Smith's profile. So when you click on this, again, we're going to click use current system date. We're going to verify that we are entering data as by making sure we scroll over this and make sure, because as we mentioned, George is not part of the housing locator program. So now because we want to edit his household, we're going to click on the household tab. Now we just created George into the system, so he is not a member of any households. However, we're going to pretend as if George presented with a child. So what we're going to do is see if he was in a previous household by clicking this. If nothing comes up, then what you want to do is start a new household. This looks very much like the client point screen when you're searching for a new client. The only thing is on the top where it says household type. This is a single parent, a male single parent, so that's what we would select. There are other options, so there's couple, parent and friend and child. So if George was with a friend and his child, or someone that he's not related to, or married with, then that's what we'd select. A couple with no children, this is for adult couples, usually used for couple shelter or people that are being housed together as individual adults that don't yet have children or don't have children at all. Female single parent, so if this was a mom with children, then that's what we would select. Foster parents, again with any identification, if they're the foster parents, then that's what you would select. Grandparents and child, if these are the grandparents that have custody in the child, either one or both in the children, that's what you'd select. Male single parent is what we're selecting today. Non-custodial caregivers, so if these are friends that are caregiving for this child or however the family composition may look. Or two-parent family. Now this is used for married couples, couples that have at least one child together in the household. Usually I have the family identify what type of family they are, if they're married, if they're not, and this helps you identify what you should select here. So for this case, we're going to select male single parent. This is a required data element that's answered and is often skipped. So make sure when you're editing or adding a household, which is what we're doing today, that you make sure you select household type. Okay, so now we may know that George's daughter is not in the system because he's telling us she's not in the system. However, just to double check that they have not called somewhere or been somewhere else that may have put them into the system, we want to make sure that this child's not already in the system. So we search for their name, and we're going to say her name is Gina Smith. And Smith is populated from his last name. It assumes automatically the last name is going to be the same as the parent. If it's not, you want to make sure you change this. And we're going to do full name reported. And George did have her social security number. So we're going to put that in. And she is not a veteran. She's just a child. And we want to click search. And now there's no matches. Now, but if I just searched for G. Smith, all of these people come in. So remember what I said in the beginning? You always want to make sure that spelling is double checked, everything is double checked. If all we have is her social, which this may be different because I didn't pay attention to what I did at first, as this is training. So if all we had was her social, we could search by that, and nothing came up. Okay, so we're going to add Gina Smith into the system because she is not already here. And we're going to click search again. Nothing. Now add a new client. When you click this, it says you are about to add a new client to the system. Be sure to look through all possible matches before continuing. And that's what I meant by just searching by different first letter, last name, just social. Just try to make sure that this client's not already existent in the system. Okay, you click OK. And now Gina Smith has been added to the client's household. You see that at the bottom. If I made a mistake and I selected the wrong client, I typed in the wrong client, you did still just create a client in the system. So you want to contact the Rhode Island Coalition for the Homeless so they can remove this client from the system. But you would just click this button and it would remove them. Okay. So now, because we did create Gina Smith, if we were to search for her, she does show up in client results. And this is where we click on the plus to add her. Okay. And we click continue, and now this box pops up. It asks you to, again, household type, just to double check to make sure you've identified that. The 816 is the household ID number. You don't need to worry about this much. You just always want to make sure your client is not in more than one household. And you see here we have George Smith, his age, head of household it asks. We want to select yes. Relationship to head of household. This is her father, so we're going to select father here. We want to know what is his relationship to her. Although there is no self option right now, and that may change. If there is, then he would be the head of household. We want to identify his relationship to Gina. Okay, and you'll notice on the top, the income that's on top is going to be pulled forward from any adult's profile. Whoever the head of household is their annual income and monthly income is going to show up here. And then this also says 2 clients, just to double check that you've done everything right. Now Gina Smith, there's no age and nothing's answered yet. So we're going to get to the age after, but right now we know she is not head of household. Always remember only one person and one person must be assigned head of household. The relationship to head of household, she is his daughter. So we'll select daughter. And they both joined the household the day they entered our shelter, which was 2/18/2019. Okay. And now we see previous household members. Again, there are none, which is good. George Smith, this is all of the information we collected at entry when we first created him. And now we're going to click on Gina Smith. And now we click on the pencil for client record. And if we didn't fully answer this when we were searching for her name, then we want to make sure we answer this any way we know. So if we know we have her full name, if we have her full social, if we know she's not a veteran, answer that now. This is not her full client profile information. This is just her client record information. So we click save. And it still says unknown age because we didn't answer her demographics, which we're going to do next. So this is how to add somebody to the household. If I wanted to add another person to the household, I would click that by adding or deleting household members. And it tells you have unsaved data on the page. So you want to save and continue because you know this is correct. And if I wanted to add another child to the household or another parent to the household, I could do that by searching here and following the exact same process I just did. We're going to say it's just George and Gina for now. And we're going to click continue. Okay. Once we see that this is accurate, everyone has, there's a head of household assigned, there's a relationship assigned, and we're back where they're both joining the shelter together. We want to make sure that we double check that they're both only in one household. So you see one household for George, one household for Gina. If you saw 2 here for George, it's a little late because you had already created a second household. That's okay. Just contact us at the coalition so we can merge those 2 households. Okay, and now we're going to save and exit. And now we see that George is now male single parent with Gina. And that is how you create a household. However, because we already did the client profile information for George, we want to do the same for Gina. So if I click on Client Profile tab, I'm going to move this bottom left. It'll take me here. But on the top right, you see switch to another household member, Gina Smith. I'm going to click Submit. Now we see her demographics are blank. We want to make sure we enter this data for the same time that her father was added to the system, so that way all of the information pulls forward together. So George was added to the system 2/7. So we want to backdate to the date that her father was entered into the system. The time is standardly usually set at midnight, and that's okay, you can leave that there. Just click Set Backdate. Okay, and now you see that it's yellow on top. That's a warning that you are in backdate mode. You're still entering data as, so you're doing everything properly. So now we just want to fill in Gina's date of birth. So we're going to say Gina was born on 11/22/2014. And we have her full date of birth. Father says she is female. Now we do not interview children under 18. We want to make sure that anybody that is the head of household for a family is answering questions in regards to their child's race, ethnicity, and gender. George said she is white, no secondary race, so we're just going to put white again. And she is non-Hispanic, non-Latino. And we save. And now that populates Gina's age. So if we were to go back to the Households tab, and we get out of backdate mode, we see that both father and daughter have age. And all of this looks accurate. Okay, and that is how you add somebody to a household.